give you the option.
Welcome, everybody. It's me, James, from The Option. Normally, I got Chris here with me, but unfortunately, tonight, Chris is not here. So we have a special appearance from our option buddy, Nick, who's going to be helping us out for today. Chris is on his anniversary. So happy anniversary, Chris. I hope the wife bought you something nice, maybe a nice Cowboys gear or something, you know.
I like it. I think that should be happening. 100%.
Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to rip through some waiver wire stuff.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good day. So week one is in the books. I know that a lot of people were watching the games. We had some fun games. We're going to go through that a little bit later. But how did you do fantasy wise while we're here? Did you have a good fantasy outcome for week one?
I went 50%. 4 for 4, 4 wins, 4 losses. So not too bad. I'll take it for week one.
That's all right. Yeah, I think
how about you?
I I'm in 16 of them. I went 11-5, so I'll take that. It was
there you go.
Anything above 8 is a good weekend. So
for sure.
But no, it's good. So well, today, guys, this is our new show. It's called Win on the Wire, and we're going to be coming every Tuesday night to bring you guys your waiver wire ads, your drops, the streamers that you should be picking up for the week. For those that are doing the streaming, I know some people are. We're going to talk a little bit about all the games that happened, obviously, the week before, and any other news that we have or any other information we want to give you, we're going to be throwing out here. So every Tuesday night, definitely check us out at 8:30. If you guys have any messages, questions, anything at all that you guys want to ask us, by all means, ask in the chat, and our producer will put it up for us, and we'll definitely get to it. We are accepting super chats, and if you want to, help us out, of course, that'd be great. And definitely subscribe to the channel, because the more you do that, the more content that we can provide for you guys. With that, Nick, why don't we get into week one? And what a week it was. We had
crazy.
Definitely. We'll start off with some of the games. We'll do a little bit of a recap just to let you guys in on what happened here. Obviously, the Thursday nighter was it started off a great night for you and me. We're both Cowboys fans. Unfortunately, it did not end that way. Cowboys Tampa Bay was a heck of a game. A fun fact here, I mean, not for us, but Brady now has the most QB wins, 15 in week one, and that's the most QB wins since 1950. So another record for Brady, of course, as he just continues to add them on. This game was a great back and forth game. It was a great start. I mean, I see why the NFL did it. I was not happy at the fact that it was Tampa Bay we had to start off against as a Cowboy fan, but there were some big games. Amari Cooper was a catching machine. CeeDee Lamb, he started off with a few drops, but then he turned it around, and I think Dak threw 59 times. So it was crazy seeing all of that unfold, and they basically took the run game for both teams was completely lost. I think Zeke had 33 yards, and I think Fournette only had about 30 as well. So it's definitely not a running game, more of a throwing game. Yeah. Brady, Godwin, and Gronk looked unstoppable at times. It was just, like I said, it was back and forth fun. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, Michael Gallup did get hurt. He's out 3 to 5 weeks with an injury, which just means that Cooper and CeeDee are going to be getting a lot more targets. But yeah, it was an interesting game, to say the least, aside from the Cowboys losing. But
all on that pass interference. I mean, hey, what?
Yes, I still think that was pass interference. I know
100%.
Other people that wasn't, but that's that. Then we had the Eagles taking on the Falcons. The Eagles end up destroying the Falcons 32-6. I was expecting a lot more from the Falcons from what I saw, but I wasn't too thrilled. Did you end up getting a chance to see all this game or parts of it?
They came out flat. Like their offense was just non-existent, and even top 5 wide receiver last year, Calvin Ridley, just nothing was there. I mean, I think a lot of people were excited to see what Kyle Pitts would do, and just it was nothing. There was nothing there, and it just.
I'm sure Russell Gage, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts also screwed a lot of people this week.
100%.
Not just yourself. So those guys are all on the bust list. It was interesting. Well, rookie Devonta Smith got his first TD with his college buddy Jalen Hurts. Actually, Jalen Hurts looked really good. He had 3 TDs in the game. He played pretty well. And I was surprised that Gainwell was the number 2 running back behind Sanders, and it wasn't any of the else that they had there. So that one surprised me because I was expecting a little bit different there. But they only ran the 2 backs and they went from there. But I mean, Sanders did have a lot more of shares. So, and like we said, Ryan, Pitts, Mike Davis, Ridley, all guys that people would have started this week definitely busted and did not help. Then we go to the Jets versus the Panthers. The Panthers winning 19-14. This one was wasn't really an interesting game. I thought it'd be a little bit more exciting than it was, but I mean, in the end, it didn't. Like a few things here and there. Christian McCaffrey's a beast. I mean, that guy, that offense runs through him. Everything's him.
Crazy.
This was his 5th career game with 80 plus rushing yards and 80 plus passing yards. Insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I called the Sam Darnold to Robbie Anderson touchdown. I didn't expect it to be one touchdown, but I mean, I called that and they did do it, and they did win their revenge game. So that was nice. In fantasy wise, we realized that the Jets backfield is horrible and we don't want anything of it. And Zach Wilson became the first QB since 1970 merger to be sacked 6+ times in week 1. So that's great for Zach Wilson.
Yeah, he's loving the ground right now.
The only bright spot for the Jets was Corey Davis. He had 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, at least there's that they could look forward to for next week.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's throwing wasn't bad. Like when he threw the ball and everything, it wasn't bad. So that's a good thing. But you're right. The run game is just non-existent there as well. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Then we went under the Chargers and the Washington football team. I like the outcome here. Chargers win 20-16. This game had a lot of hype behind it as well. Unfortunately, right out of the gate, Ryan Fitzpatrick ends up getting hurt. He hurt his hip and he's already on the IR as of now. And Henneke had to come in, who he played well, but he's more of a game manager and he's not the same guy that Ryan Fitzpatrick would have been. So all these weapons that they have are going to be downgraded for the rest of the season until Ryan Fitzpatrick gets back, if he gets back. Yep. And yeah, I mean, from this game here, did you notice anything aside from? I noticed that the run game was interesting for the Chargers. I was expecting a lot more out of Eckler and the whole team. I think Eckler only finished with 57 yards on the ground, and there wasn't much there. And so I'm curious to see where this run game is going to go in the future. I know Washington does have a really good D, so I get that. But
honestly, I think in that run game scenario, I think mostly that factor is, again, Eckler was dealing with the injury all week long too, right? So they had to watch that a bit. But it looks like they're going to somewhat do a sort of committee between Eckler and Justin Jackson, what it seems to be. Which for fantasy owners, I know was a little upsetting because they were hoping Eckler would be such a high value pick right now. But other than that, yeah, the game.
They also incorporated that Roundtree guy as well. He had a good couple of carries as well. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Then we had a fun game. Eckler not getting a target is crime. I agree, Noah. That hurt me. I have Eckler in a few leagues, and that's just I was hoping for a lot more out of him. But now the San Fran Detroit game, and this game was insane. I don't know if any of you were able to catch this game. I watched this game a lot more closely because I had the San Francisco 49ers as my survivor pick this week, which I'm sure a bunch of people did. And I know producer Phil, this San Fran is his favorite team, so we like to rib him as it is. But for those who didn't see it, San Fran went up 31-10 at half. And this game was basically theirs. They couldn't lose this game. I don't know what happened, but I'll detail some of the events. So there's a minute 57 left. They end up getting a rushing TD to Jamal Williams. They go for 2 points and they get it. Then they got to go for an onside kick. Well, they recovered the onside kick. Then they drive down the field. They score a second touchdown. And then they go for 2 points, which they convert again. So now that makes the score 41-33. They have to go for another onside kick, which they did not recover. So San Fran gets the ball back, but San Fran there's too much time on the clock still. So they are at 3rd and 12. They pass the ball to Debo Samuel. He starts running. It looks like he's going to get the first down, end the game. He fumbles the ball with 49 seconds left. The Lions get the ball back. They start driving the field. The Lions get to the 24-yard line with 17 seconds left, but they go 4 and out, and the game finishes. What a finish to this game. It was insane.
Debo and Kittle were just hoping on the sidelines that nothing would happen. Like they were praying that they wouldn't lose this game because they're just like, oh my goodness, what did I just do? They kept flashing the camera towards Debo too, just to make it like, he's it was crazy.
It was crazy. I felt bad because Debo had such a good game too. I mean, he's one of our studs we'll talk about later, but man, was that the big news out of this one was the big injury to Mostert. I'm hearing 8 weeks. I've heard it could be longer, but that's what I'm hearing right now, at least 8 weeks.
No, he's done for the season officially.
Is it now done for the season? I heard that was a report, so it's officially the season now?
Yeah, he actually came out and said it himself that he's done for the season.
Okay, so, yeah, I heard it was a chip in his, I believe his knee or in his shin, like it was a chip bone of some sort.
Yeah, and he had to go for surgery, and and they said that surgery is the best option for basically next season. So that's what they went with in that route. But yeah, he's done for the year.
Break. I mean, I've had him a few seasons, and it's like you know an injury's coming. You don't expect it 3 drives in or 3 rushes in. So
he's a good running back though. Like points wise for fantasy when he plays, he's good. It's just he can't stay on the field, and that's just a big decline, right?
We'll talk a little bit about his replacement a little bit later, so we won't get into it right now. Let's continue on. So we got the Steelers and the Bills. A lot of people consider this an upset. The Steelers take it 23-16. I know the Steelers were 11-0 to start the season last year, so they obviously were a pretty good team, but some people didn't feel they were a real playoff team. They were more of a pretender, but they came out, and that defense looked real good. They stifled Josh Allen, and there was nothing they could do, and the Steelers were just playing amazing. Now, Big Ben was horrible. I called that as well. I sat Big Ben, and it was the right sit, but I just looked like the Allen and Buffalo just weren't clicking. And I guess they're saying because they didn't get much playing time and whatnot, but it just didn't look good for Buffalo. Sam Bavako, Debo went off. It's a long season. That fumble is in the past, and he's going to rock this year. I assume you have Debo on your team, and that's why you're saying that.
I mean, he's hoping that's going to happen now.
Yeah. So in regards to the Steelers, I mean, good for them. I'm glad it was a good game. They won. They played well. I don't like watching the Steelers win, but I mean, them winning and the loss to the Bills doesn't really hurt anyone on the Cowboy side for me. So we'll go with it and hope that they, continue to lose a little bit later. Yes, I'm a Steeler hater, but that's okay.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. The next game was a fun game. It was the Seahawks and the Colts. The Seahawks ended up winning this one 28-16. I was expecting the Colts to put up a lot better of an effort against them, and I was surprised that they didn't come out really well in this one. Wentz did start, which they said he was going to, and I was curious to see how he was. He played well. Nothing against him. He did what he was supposed to do. Just there wasn't anything flashy, and I was surprised that none of his wide receivers caught. Like when your running backs lead your team in rushing and in receiving, you got a problem, and that's exactly what happened. The 1-2 guys in rushing were Taylor and Hines. The 1-2 guys in receiving were Taylor and Hines. So.
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
No, there's something wrong there, and they need to figure that out quick because, I mean, I had Michael Pittman as a start for this week, and he had 4 targets for, I think, 30-something yards. It was horrible, and I'm just like, you have these wide receiver options. Why are we not throwing to them? So, and the Seattle defense is good, but not that good. They should have been able to do a little bit more. But on the Seattle side, I mean, Russell Wilson cooked. He had 4 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett looked amazing. He had 2. DK looked unstoppable. I mean, and Carson ran, I think, for 90 yards. So Seahawks look like they're in regular season form and just mowing down. So we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in that new head offensive coordinator, and it looks like they're working just fine. So I got a bunch of Seahawks on my team, so I'm good with it.
And then we have another good game, the Bengals and the Vikings. This was like a back and forth. It was like nobody wanted to give up the lead. Nobody wanted to finish this game. They were both in it right to the end. The Bengals do make a comeback late, kick a last-minute field goal to force the OT, which was crazy. And then in OT, the Bengals end up getting the ball and brought it down, got their field goal for the win. And it was just a crazy game back and forth. Rookie Jamar Chase had 101 yards and a TD. I mean, this guy in preseason, he could barely catch the ball. And all of a sudden he comes out and just shines. T. Higgins was on a good game for the first half up until he needed to get an IV to get some drugs put in him, or sorry, some good ones to put in him just so he could finish the rest of the game. But we didn't see much of him. And Mixon had over 100 yards and he rushed real well as well. So I mean, the Bengals played a lot better than I thought. Minnesota's defense didn't play as good as I expected them to play. I took Mini on this one, thinking that they would have won this easily, but they didn't have their run game going. They didn't throw very well. I believe Jefferson only had, I think it was 70 or 80 yards. It just wasn't a regular Mini game here.
No, it was not. I mean, other than Adam Thielen, having a bunch of targets from Kirk Cousins, honestly, it was not a normal mini game that we're used to seeing. Yeah. Dalvin Cook normally dominates and just kills so much time, but it just wasn't happening. And like you said, the Cincinnati Bengals there, I mean, Jamar Chase had a great connection again with Joe Burrow. And you said he was dropping balls in preseason, but Joe Burrow didn't play in the preseason. So that's a big difference, and they look good.
Yeah, no. All right. Now we'll go to our second half of games here, and we'll start off with this one was a fun one. The Jacksonville Jaguars versus Houston. Everybody was huge on Jacksonville to win this one because everyone said Houston was going to be garbage this year. And this was upset city. Houston came out, and I don't know if Jacksonville knew what hit them. Mark Ingram had 26 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. We'll talk a little bit about him later. Tyrod Taylor looked good. And then on the other side, Jacksonville, Lawrence had 3 INTs. This would be his first regular season loss, I believe, ever in his career, because in college he did not lose a regular season game.
In high school.
Or in high school, yeah. And yeah, I mean, he did throw 332 yards and 3 touchdowns with the 3 interceptions, but that was a lot of garbage time. And I don't know if you saw the interceptions. They were not good interceptions. Like, he overthrew one guy. One that was cut off, and I get that. Another one he just completely threw to the other team. It was as if that guy was wide open and he threw to him. It's going to take some growing pains for Mr. Trevor Lawrence. A lot needs to change there for him to understand some things. And then J-Rob, a guy that we all picked to be a start of the week. I don't know what happened there. Carlos Hyde out-touched him. J-Rod only finished with 8 fantasy points. They were both like MIA. It was just like, what is going on in Jacksonville? And this worries me because if this is against Houston, what's going to happen when they play better teams? This was like the layup win. So
100%. This should have been an easy win for them. And you're right. There was times where Trevor Lawrence looked really good and was like, holy, that's a great ball. But then those INTs were not good.
I know.
And the fact they couldn't run the ball was even worse at that point, right?
All right, we'll get into the Arizona-Tennessee game. Arizona wins 38-13. This was all Arizona. I mean, Kyler Murray, 5 touchdowns, 4 throwing, 1 rushing. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 TDs, 83 yards. The surprises, Derrick Henry only had 9 rushes for, I think, 58 yards, and Julio Jones was called out by his coach at the end of the game. So there's already some issues going on in Tennessee.
Crazy. I think everyone thought that Derrick Henry was going to have a day. And then you saw, I think it wasn't until the 4th quarter where he finally started to just get some yardage, which is not something.
It was 17 carries, 58 yards. Doesn't make it better. The 9 would have been better. Looked better on the average. Then we go to Miami, New England. This was a fun one. I enjoyed this one. I was watching a little bit of it just to see Mack Jones. And it was Tua versus Mack. And they played well, the two of them. Really nothing bad to say about both quarterbacks. Rookie Jalen Waddle got his first touchdown in the game. Yeah. Mack looked okay. I mean, he managed well. He had a touchdown and 200 and something yards. And it came down to the end of the game. And unfortunately, it was a fumble from Dwayne Harris that gave Miami the ball in the win. So, and I'm actually hearing now that Harris might get less touches going into week 2 because of that fumble. So keep an eye on that for anyone who has Harris as their RB2s.
Yep.
This was a game that I enjoyed the final score as well. The Denver Broncos beating the New York Giants 27-13. The big news out of this one was Jerry Jeudy gets hurt, and it looks like he's going to be out 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Teddy Bridgewater looked good. The Giants looked bad. The O-line was bad. Daniel Jones was bad. Barkley only had 3 points. I believe he also hurt his knee as well. They're saying there's reports that he did tweak something. I don't know how bad as of yet. They haven't released anything, but he did pop up on the injury report. Mel Gordon looked better than Devonta Williams from what I was seeing as well. So keep an eye on that one because we were all expecting Devonta to take over. But yeah, that was, the Giants just didn't look anything good, and I don't think they're going to be all year. I've been calling that I think this is Daniel Jones' last year, and he's starting off perfectly for my call on that one.
I mean, yeah. The Mel Gordon Javonta one, other than Mel Gordon's long 70-yard touchdown, I think they're both kind of even, that they weren't totally great and they weren't totally bad either. But
we'll see again. We got another week to see what happens.
Yeah.
Then this one's probably the biggest upset of the week. We got the New Orleans Saints taking on Green Bay, and New Orleans comes out and wins this one 38-3. I know Chris, I know he's not here right now, but he was just having a day with this game. He couldn't believe it. Sam, the Donkeys win. But yeah, in New Orleans there, that game was crazy. It looked like Green Bay just didn't even want to play. Rodgers looked like he didn't want to be there. It was just, Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, all bust this week. Jameis threw 5 touchdowns on only 148 yards, which is even better. I couldn't believe the minimum yardage he had to throw. So definitely look for Green Bay to bounce back. This is not this is going to happen every week kind of thing. So, but the question is New Orleans the real deal? Can people back these guys? And is Jameis the real deal?
I mean, we're going to talk about Jameis a little bit later, but I mean, he looked really good out there. So
yeah.
And that defense from New Orleans is a difference maker too, right?
Aaron Rodgers would have had a higher passer rating had he spiked the ball into the turf on each attempt.
They all got benched. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, all of them got benched in the fourth quarter. I don't think I've ever seen them ever get benched.
Well, I guess at least it's better week 1 than in the playoffs, right? So,
yeah, of course.
Then we have the Cleveland KC game, and this was a fun game. I watched most of this. Cleveland came out on fire. They were just ready to play, ready to go. They had the perfect game plan in place. And the only thing I could say is it's unfortunate that Cleveland's punter is not very good, and that's what kind of cost them in this game. But KC didn't get the lead. I think it was until the fourth quarter. And it was crazy how well Cleveland played. And I really think Cleveland could have won this game. And Baker looked good. And it was a fun game to watch. And you didn't know what was going on. KC looked a little frustrated, but those big 3 in KC are so tough to stop. I mean, Kelsey is just a machine, and then he just Mahomes just tosses it up, and Tyreek Hill's just there, and it's like, how did you? It's crazy.
That play was so. I watched that exact play, and it was just like Mahomes scrambles to the right, and you're just like, okay, and then he tosses it up in the air, and all of a sudden, it lands right in Tyreek Hill's hand, and I'm just like, what? Like, how do you know he's there? It's nuts.
Tyreek Hill, 201 scrimmage yards. I know he was amazing, and he's going to be on our list a little bit later as well. Then we got to the Sunday nighter. This one, was more of a snooze fest than anything else. The Rams and the Bears. Rams beat the Bears 34-14. It was completely the Rams all game long. It wasn't even close. Stafford and Kupp, that connection between those two is money. I mean, they're going to be good all season long. Darrell Henderson looked pretty good. The Bears, the only bright spot on the Bears I saw was David Montgomery. Yep. He looked fantastic. But I don't think the Andy Dalton is going to last long. I think Justin Fields is going to be in there a lot sooner than they think, because if he has another 1 or 2 outcomes like this, I believe the switch is coming. I know they already started using him in that game to begin with, and I just think he's going to grow, and I think they're ready for it, and I think they realize it. So
you got to bring him in, because, I mean, honestly, for fantasy owner-wise, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, those guys are all declining with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
It's looking bad, so...
And then we get into our last game of the night, and this might have been probably the game of the week. Baltimore and the Raiders. Sorry, producer Splash. I know this is not what you wanted, but the Raiders end up edging Baltimore 33-27. For those that didn't catch the game, again, this was a back and forth game. Both sides kind of were playing really well, wanting it, but never wanting to give up. Raiders, again, they tied it late to push the OT. Baltimore had one last chance, but they couldn't do anything just before OT. And then in OT, the Raiders drove the field. They got they got a 1st and goal, and there was like 6 minutes left, and everyone's just like, okay, this game's over, right? I'm hearing Peyton Manning and Eli say, okay, rush the ball 4 times, this game's over. So first one is, they decide to do a quarterback sneak that gets stuffed. Then they get a penalty, of course, which brings them back 10 yards. Then they missed the throw. And then there was an interception off of a guy's helmet that popped high in the air that anybody could have caught. And of course, it lands in the Raiders' hands. Then Baltimore has the ball. They're driving. They go down to 3rd and 7. And then Lamar fumbles on the 30-yard line, giving the ball back to the Raiders. The Raiders finally kick a field goal to win the game. It was crazy. I could not believe what I was watching. I remember tweeting to someone saying how to screw up 1st and goal in overtime. Just look at the Raiders, but then they somehow get it back and win. So it was insane game.
It was nuts. It was a great game to watch
and whatnot. But yeah, that's our weekly recap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For those who didn't watch, at least we gave you guys some information on some of the games. We're just going to talk a little bit of some of the injuries, big ones that happened so far. For QB wise, obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had his hip. He's already placed on IR. On the RB side, Raheem Mostert also done for the season. Saquon Barkley, his knee, he did have a re-aggravation, so let's keep an eye on that. We're not sure how long. Antonio Gibson's shoulder, he did practice today, so they're saying he should be good to go. Rashad Penny also got hurt, left the game, did not return. They're saying he could be out a couple of weeks. On the wide receiver side, Brandon Ayuk had a hamstring injury. He's on one of our lists for later on, and that's why he had a 0. Jerry Jeudy with the ankle will be out about 8 weeks. Odell didn't start, which surprised a lot of people because of his knee. We'll look to see if he starts this week, but he may take another week off. Michael Gallup, we already talked about. Curtis Samuel with his groin was placed on IR. He's going to be out another couple of weeks. Jamison Crowder, because of COVID, they're saying he could make it back for week 2, so keep an eye on that. And Tyrell Williams got a concussion. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. And on the tight end side, injury notes were Zach Ertz did hurt his hamstring, left the game. They don't know if he's going to play for next week. And Evan Ingram is still dealing with a calf injury.
All right.
So with that, let's go into our week 1 stud team of the week. So we decided to do a stud and duds instead of just regular players. We decided to actually have a team of the week and on both sides. So Nick, why don't you read us the stud team of the week?
Yeah, so our stud team of the week, we start with our quarterback 1 of the week, which is no other than Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. He had 35 points on the week, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, 20 rushing yards, and also added a rushing TD. He just dismantled the Titans.
He had a big game. And the only QB close to him, obviously Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mahomes had 33 points, another 300 yards, 3 TDs. Like, he was unreal. On the running back side, who do we have there?
Well, no other than Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's drafted number 1 in all fantasy formats, and he proved it again. Like we said before, he is just a beast. He had a total of 23 points on Sunday. So,
like I said before, he had 89 rush yards and 98 rush yards, 89 receiving yards, 9 receptions. Unreal. Joe Mixon had 23 points to be our second RB, 127 rush yards and a TD. Then we go into our wide receivers. Here, I'll let you talk about the first one. Who's the first one on the list?
The first one who had the best week this week, no other than Amari Cooper of the Dallas Cowboys. He put up 32 points, 13 receptions on the night, and he had 139 yards with 2 touchdowns.
He wasn't the only 32-point wide receiver, unfortunately.
No.
Tyreek Hill did tie him, and as we said, Tyreek Hill put up a heck of a game as well. With I think 197 and a TD. Guy was awesome as well. And then Debo Samuel was our third wide receiver, who we talked about, 27 points on the week. Even with that fumble at the end that he lost, he still was able to get it. It would have put him 2 more points ahead, but he had a great 100%. Game. Our tight end 1, who was that? I didn't like watching him do what he did.
Me neither. I mean, it was against the Cowboys as well. So, but that combo of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Yeah, Rob Gronkowski takes tight end 1 of the week, 25 points, 8 receptions, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He just, he made the Cowboys look bad.
He didn't drop a single ball. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. That connection looks better and better. So,
and then on the kicker side, Robbie Gould had 14 points, and the best DST were the Steelers with 17. So some honorable mentions of some guys that you might not have started and didn't realize they scored this many points. Jared Goff had 30 points for the Detroit Lions. Jameis Winston had 30 points. Jamal Williams had 21, and DeAndre Swift had 20. So the Detroit backfield was awesome as well. Elijah Mitchell, who we're going to talk about soon, had 16. Corey Davis with 24. Christian Kirk, 22. Antonio Brown, 21. Sterling Shepard, 21. And tight end Jawan Johnson with 16. And now we'll go into our dud team of the week. And this one, we had some big names on this list. Our QBs here, we're looking at Aaron Rodgers with 3 points and Matt Ryan with 6. I guarantee you these two guys cost a lot of people their fantasies this week.
100%.
Horrible games between the two of them. Who are our running backs there?
Yeah, our running back duds of the week is also Green Bay Aaron Jones with 3 points and New York Giants Saquon Barkley with 3 points. Again, two guys that are probably in everyone's lineup and did not help very much this week.
Some big names there. On the wide receiver side, we got Brandon Ayuk with 0. I know he went out, but he was a guy that everybody was starting this week. Cortland Sutton with 2 points and Mike Evans with 4 points. Big name wide receivers did not get a lot of points for these guys.
No.
Who's our tight end, Nick?
Our tight end is Mike Gaseki. He actually did catch 2 passes in the game that I saw. Both were taken back because of penalties, and so he ended up having 0 points on the game.
Yeah, that's why he finished with 2 targets only, which don't give you points, unfortunately. The worst kicker we had was Graham Gano, who only finished with a point out of all the kickers that started.
Ouch.
And the worst DST was the Green Bay DST, who had minus 4 points.
When you get beat that big.
Yeah, I know. Some honorable mentions that we had. Again, some big names on this list. Big Ben, 11 points. Andy Dalton, 7 points. Ezekiel Elliott, 5 points. Najee Harris, 5 points. James Robinson, 6 points. Derrick Henry, 9 points. Marquez Callaway, everyone predicted him to be a sleeper, only 2 points. Julio Jones, like we said, he got called out, only 4 points. Allen Robinson, 7 points. Calvin Ridley, 8 points. And Devontae Adams, 8 points. Big names.
Wild.
These guys probably cost a lot of people their fantasies. It's okay. It's week 1. Don't worry about it. We are now going to bring you our top 7 ads for week 2 and our top 7 drops. All right, guys. So we're going to help you guys out. Definitely go through it. Our first ad, which is obviously the biggest name on this list right now, Elijah Mitchell from the San Francisco 49ers. Right now on Yahoo, he's in 8% owned, so he's definitely out there for a lot of you to get. We're saying to average about 25% of your fab on him as of right now, just because we think he's going to be the starter, but there are some drawbacks. But let's talk about what happened. So he turned 19 carries into 104 yards in a TD against the Detroit Lions. He was picked out of preseason over second-round pick Trey Sermon, who was a healthy scratch, and people were wondering why he was a healthy scratch and why Mitchell was out there. There are reports that in preseason he outplayed Trey Sermon, and Kyle Shanahan liked him better. Now, there's also reports that Sermon apparently does not play special teams very well, and because of the fact he doesn't play special teams very well, that's why he was a healthy scratch and not even the third running back on the list.
Wow.
The issue here is that San Fran backfield, A, all of them seem to get hurt all the time. And B, we don't know for sure if Trey Sermon is going to be a problem. We think that Mitchell can outdo JaMychal Hasty, and Jeff Wilson is out for a couple more weeks before he comes back, and we think Mitchell can do well against him. But if Trey Sermon is the guy that they drafted in the second round and as good as he can be, he's going to get a chance now to try and take that spot back, and that's the only downfall we see right now with Mitchell.
Yep.
Why don't you give us Christian Kirk?
Yeah, so our second guy on the list is, like you said, Christian Kirk. I mean, in a surprising twist of events where a lot of us thought that it was going to be AJ Green as the second wideout in Arizona, it was the chemistry between Kyler Murray and Christian Kirk from last year that took over, and it was Christian Kirk that was the second guy. He finished the day. He went 5 for 5 with 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I mean, like I said, it looks like that chemistry is going to continue, and it could help Christian Kirk actually become that wide receiver 2 kind of format in Arizona. Not saying that AJ Green won't get involved in any way, but it looks like right now it's Christian Kirk over AJ Green. And I mean, the way that you play against Arizona is you got to protect and you got to defend DeAndre Hopkins. So this leaves a lot of room open for that second wide receiver, which could bring in a lot of points. He's only owned in about 13% of leagues on Yahoo, and we're saying to use about 8% of your fab on him this week. I'm going to grab him in leagues that I can. If I need the wide receiver depth, if I need a guy that I think I'm going to watch to make sure we'll still have that connection, and I think I can grab him early and have a decent wide receiver value, especially for flex pay.
Nice. Next one on our list is Mark Ingram of the Houston Texans. Never thought I'd be saying that. I'll be honest with you. This backfield to start was a three-headed monster. We didn't know who was going to be the guy. They have David Johnson, they have Phillip Lindsay, and they have Mark Ingram. Well, on Sunday, Mark Ingram outsnapped and outtouched the other two by a lot. He had 26 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And the other guys only had a few carries underneath him. I think one was 3 and one was 2. So this still could be a three-headed monster, just to give you some idea of what could happen here, because it's game scripted. They were winning this game, so they relied on Mark Ingram. I don't know how many more games they're going to win, considering everyone projected them to go 0-17. But if they are in the games and they are close, Mark Ingram is a wrecking ball that they can continue using and use very well. So expect him to get the early down work, at least, especially in the early parts of the game before they start losing. Then they'll start passing off to the other two pass catching backs. So just keep an eye on that. We have him here. He's only 20% owned in Fab, and we're saying to use about 12% of your Fab. Sorry, he's 20% owned in Yahoo, and we're saying to use about 12% of your Fab dollars. And go from there. I'd like you to try to get Mitchell first. If you can't, then have Mark Ingram as your backup plan. But just know that Mark Ingram's a guy you may change depending on who they're facing.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a team that goes now 0-17? I mean, that was probably the one team.
The next one is the Detroit Lions. Now they're in that lead now. So we'll see what happens. Actually, Jacksonville too, depending.
Imagine they go. No, they can't go 0-17 now.
Hey,
okay.
We'll see.
All right. Well, fourth on our list is Jameis Winston, quarterback from the Saints. I mean, this guy sat on the bench a whole year last year. And then throughout all of preseason and offseason this year, it was, is he going to be the guy? Is he going to take the job? Will he beat out Taysom Hill? And I think on Sunday, beating down the Packers, he actually proved that, yes, he's ready to take the job, and he is their number one quarterback. Winston went 14 for 20 with 148 yards, like we said, and 5 touchdowns, and he added 36 rushing yards on 6 attempts. I think it's safe to say that Winston passed the eye test this week. He didn't throw a single interception against the Packers. So, I mean, it's safe to say he can see again. It's good.
LASIK worked.
The LASIK worked. I've seen Winston taking over this job for a while now. I've had him on my team. I had him last year. I sat him on my bench, and I'm glad I did. I definitely think Winston's going to be a good quarterback option for a lot of fantasy teams this year. He's owned in about 44%, which is a little high, but still it's less than half the percent of leagues. And we're saying to use about 10% of your fab on him. I think he's a better candidate on your as a quarterback for you, especially if you're a team that waited late in drafts to draft a guy like Matt Ryan or Baker Mayfield or even Zach Wilson, where he beat all of them this week with the 30 points. So I definitely like Jameis Winston going forward.
And that's without Michael Thomas. When Michael Thomas comes back, he could be even better.
Exactly.
Now, this is also with a 1 quarterback format. If you're in a 2 quarterback league, I would up that percentage and definitely go get Winston. I'd put him at the top of my priority, because if he's there and he's available and you don't have 3 quarterbacks already in a 2 quarterback league, definitely go get him. Or if you have one of those lower quarterbacks, try to get this guy.
100%. I agree.
Our next guy on the list is Sterling Shepard from the New York Giants. He's 39% owned in Yahoo. We're saying to spend about 8% of your fab on him. He led the team with 9 targets. He wasn't expected to, and with the names that are in New York, you're looking at Galladay, Kadarius Toney came there. So you weren't sure who was going to get what, but he did lead. He had 7 catches for 113 yards and a TD. He was on the field for 95% of the offensive snaps. So that shows you something, that they definitely have faith in him, and the connection between him and Daniel Jones is still there. And if this continues, he is a great flex option for you. So we're not saying to spend too much on it just because it is the Giants. We don't really like them. But if you are looking for a flex option that you need down the stretch, he's definitely a good guy that you could probably spend cheap on and put on your team and go from there.
Agreed. Next on our list is Zach Pasquel from the Indianapolis Colts. He had 4 catches on Sunday for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did actually do better than both his counterparts, Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell. And even in the target share enough, he was ahead of them as well. The only thing about Zach Pascal is I'm still a little bit weary on him. I mean, he did have 2 touchdowns, and that's why he is on our list, because he was the guy targeted in the red zone for Carson Wentz. But I have a funny feeling that Carson Wentz can go basically almost every week and almost pick a different wide receiver to be at the top of the list. So I am a little weary on him. I am going to say he's owned in less than 1% of leagues. So basically for your fab, we're telling you to use about 2% of your fab money to get him. What this guy is going to be is you're going to buy him pretty low on fab. You're going to basically hold on him and make sure that, he is the guy. So you're not using a lot of fab money to get him. And he's going to sit there, especially against his week 2 matchup against a tough Rams defense that we saw shut down the Chicago Bears. I wouldn't really use him this week. But if he does get good and does well against the Rams this week, I mean, hey, that connection alone is great for a flex play. So, and you got him for cheap, so I don't mind picking him up and holding him for a little bit.
All right, and the last guy on our list, I was surprised to see the percentages of his own. We're talking about Nelson Aguilar, signed a big contract with New England. He's owned in 33% of Yahoo leagues. He was signed to be the number 1 wide receiver in New England, and they used him this week to be the number 1 wide receiver. Now, yes, he didn't get the most targets, which that went to Jacoby Myers, but it was only 9-7, so it was 2 target difference. But Aguilar did lead the way with 72 yards and a touchdown. And with Aguilar facing the Jets next week, he is a sneaky good option to start if you do get him. Now, we're saying to use about 5% of your fab because, like I said, he's only 33% owned. So I think you can get him for a little bit cheaper because nobody seems to be wanting him. I got him in a lot of leagues in the draft late, almost second, third, last round, just because I wanted to take a chance because I thought something. He did really well last year in Las Vegas. And I think he's going to have a pretty good year with Mack Jones.
Yeah.
A few honorable mentions just to take a look at. Tim Patrick, owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues. If you're looking for another quarterback, Tyler Heineke, owned in 0%, as he's going to be the starter for Washington now. And Latavius Murray, he did play last night. He was the number 2 behind Tyrell Williams. Taysom did look good. He did score a touchdown, had a big run. Latavius also scored a touchdown. They're saying Latavius could eventually take over depending on how Taysom does. So this might be more of a stash just to kind of hold for a bit to see what happens. Because if he does take over the number 2 spot, Latavius could be dangerous for you down the stretch.
Yeah, so another one is also with Denver there is KJ Hamler. Reports came out today saying that he may be the one that takes over that spot for Judy. So that's something to watch out for too.
Yeah. Again, super chats are available. You guys can send to us, and that'd be greatly appreciated. If you are watching and you like the content, like what we're producing, please follow and subscribe and like the show. The more that we get, the more that we can produce for you guys and go from there. And we appreciate all the support and everything that you guys do bring to us. With that, let's go to our drops for the week. So obviously when you have waiver ads, you're going to have waiver drops. And these are some of the guys that we feel you can get rid of on your teams and not really have to worry about anything at this point. Biggest one here. So at the beginning, we talk about Tyrell Williams. I know he did leave with a concussion. I still don't like any wide receivers other than the tight end on the Detroit Lions. So you can drop him with ease. He had 2 receptions for 14 yards. It was 2.4 points. Don't worry about him. Next on the list is Hunter Henry, tight end for New England. Big hype coming out of the year for him. Unfortunately, I didn't see much. He had 3 receptions, 31 yards for 4.5 points in a half-point PPR. Didn't show me much. Didn't like it. I think Jonnu Smith might be the guy to own as the tight end in New England here.
I think they flip every week, honestly.
That could be too, which is not good either. So the next one is J.D. Mckissick. We thought he'd be the backup. He did so well over there in Washington last year. He had 1 rush for 8 yards and 1 target for 0.8 points, which was horrible if anyone used him as a flex. Hopefully you didn't. Next on our list, Russell Gage, 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 points. This was a big flop because a lot of people figured Russell Gage would be the guy. The whole Atlanta team was awful. I didn't like it at all. So, and they're going in, I believe, to Tampa next week. So it's not getting any better for them.
No.
5th on our list is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously the injury, he's going on IR. You can safely drop him. Try to get one of those other 2 quarterbacks if you can, or if you're going to have to stream, then we can go through some streaming options as we go. But you don't want to hold him on an IR spot when you can hold somebody else there or someone better. Next on our list are the Jets backfield. We talked about that earlier. They looked horrible. Tevin Coleman had 24 yards, 2.4 points. Michael Carter had 6 rushing yards, 1 catch for 14. 2.5 points, and Ty Johnson had 15 rush yards, 1 catch for 11 yards for 3.1 points. It was bad across the board. I don't like them right now. I wouldn't even stash any of them. There's other options that are better out there. Definitely, you can drop these guys and not really worry. This Jets team is starting to scare me, and it's looking like there might not be an up. Hopefully that changes, but we'll have to see. And last on our list is Curtis Samuel, who was placed on IR. Obviously didn't get any points this week, but he's going to be out a couple of weeks. And the fact that Heineke's now the quarterback there, that downgrades all the wide receivers in Washington. And he was already the number 3, possibly number 4. So you can drop him and not have to worry either. Some honorable mentions, Evan Ingram still hurt, obviously. Michael Gallup was going to be out about 5 weeks. Lev Bell from Baltimore didn't play. He was scratched. Philip Lindsay, who got the least amount of work out of the the running backs there, and Raheem Mostert, who's now done for the season.
Yep.
All right, now we're going to go into some of our streaming options like we talked about. And so obviously if you aren't able to, don't worry, Splash, we don't have a streaming option one, so we're good. If you're looking for some streaming options here, we put up some guys that we think could help you guys this week. The number 1 guy I have here is Denver quarterback Teddy Bridgewater versus the Jags. Teddy looked really good last week against the Giants. He gets another easy matchup this week against the Jags. He put up 264 and 2 TDs, and he threw 77%. So if you're looking for a QB that you can throw in there, if you lost Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, this is a guy that you can slot in. He's got really good weapons. I know he lost Jerry Jeudy, but there's the next guy up situation there, and I think he's going to have a pretty good week. Quarterback 2 numbers. It won't be, he's not going to be a Patrick Mahomes, but I mean, this guy can get you by.
Yeah, next on the list, we have quarterback Mack Jones versus the New York Jets. I mean, this week, the Jets had Sam Darnold come back for a revenge game, and Sam Darnold, as we've seen in the past, is a very inconsistent quarterback that has a lot of turnovers, and he only had 1 turnover, which was a fumble. So that's a very big sign that we can see Mac Jones have a great game coming into this one. I think Mac Jones will settle in his second game in the NFL. Like we saw in the first week, he had a pretty decent week, and I think this week he's going to be even better against a weak Jets defense that we saw this week against Carolina. I think Mac Jones can easily go over 250 yards and 2 TDs this week.
Yeah, he had 281 and 1, and he threw 74% against the Dolphins. So I like it. Joe Lopez, what's up? Welcome to the show. We also like the Packers DST. Yes, Packers DST was the worst DST last in week 1, and we think this week they're going to have a bounce back because they are facing the Detroit Lions. And I think they're going to do really well. They're going to be a little bit upset, obviously, from what happened last week. I think they're going to come out well. It's a Monday nighter. It is at home. I like it. I think they're going to do well, and I think the Packers are going to right the ship and go back and beat Detroit and get back right on that wagon they're supposed to be on.
Yeah, and following the DST row, we got the Saints DST versus Carolina. Like I just said before, I mean, Sam Darnold is a quarterback that gives up the ball a lot, and the Saints defense just dismantled one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Aaron Rodgers. So I don't see them having a tough time this week, and I think they're a safe bet to play against Carolina.
Yeah, and then I got New Orleans Saints tight end Juwan Johnson. He's facing the Carolina Panthers this week. Last week he had 3 catches, 21 yards, 2 TDs. Yes, he's a little skeptical, but I mean, he did get targeted for 2 TDs in the end zone. I know it was only 3 catches, but if Winston's going to target him because there's not that many options out there, this might be a guy that can at least score you a touchdown at the tight end spot.
Yeah, and our last streamer of the week is LA Chargers tight end Jared Cook. Cook had 8 targets last game. He caught 5 of them for 56 yards, and he actually was 3rd in receiving on the team. Coming into this week, he's playing against the Dallas Cowboys, who, like we said at the beginning of the show, gave up a crazy amount of points to Rob Gronkowski. So I don't see a reason why Jared Cook and Justin Herbert don't have a successful night against the Cowboys. And I'm going Jared Cook's having over 60 yards and a touchdown against the Cowboys easily this week.
All right. And actually, I'm going to add one more DST just because I think they're going to do really well. I'm going to take the Bears DST versus the Bengals this week. I think the Bears are due for a bounce back game, and the DST, they didn't play too well, but I think they'll have a better week this week against the Bengals, and they're going to keep that a little bit low scoring and be able to put it through. So definitely look for that if you're looking for some options. Now, I believe, Joe, you had asked this week, Dak versus Jalen for this week. It's a different show. We usually do that on Sundays, but I'm just trying to see here. Let me double check on who the Eagles are playing this week. One sec. The Eagles are playing the 49ers, and the Cowboys are playing the Chargers. I'm taking Dak as a Cowboy fan. That's very simple. I just wanted to double check. I think San Fran's D is a little better. I know they had a bad ending to that game with Detroit, but I think they're going to shore that up a little bit, and they're going to make it a little bit closer. And then I think Dak can definitely go out there and throw more. Need opinion. Should I trade Montgomery for Najee? I'm going to say no on that one. And I'm going to say no because I don't think you should worry about Najee just yet, unless you're getting Najee in that situation. If you're getting Najee in that situation, then yeah. So should I trade Montgomery for Najee? Then yes, said that wrong. Sorry. Yes, I would trade for Najee right now. A lot of people are saying he's a buy low candidate because of what they did. He only had about 5 fantasy points. I think he'll do a lot better as the season goes on. They're going to use him a lot more. Pittsburgh always uses a 3-down bell cow back. I know that Chicago seems to be doing that as well, but I think Najee will finish higher at the end of the season.
Yep. Also, Buffalo defense was, that game was all defensive anyways, right? So I think it'll work out.
No problem, Joe. I mean, Dak should finish higher than than Jalen Hurts every week, all weeks long this season, as long as he doesn't get hurt. Dak's projected top 5 every single week. So being able to start Dak and having Hurts as your backup doesn't hurt at all. So, all right, let's go into the Thursday night game. And for Thursday night, we got the New York Giants taking on the Washington football game. And this is going to be a boring game for me to watch just because I don't like either of these teams.
Is it possible for them both to get a loss? Is that possible?
I would love to see them both get a loss.
No,
unfortunately, it's not going to happen. The line opened up at 3.5 for the Washington football team. And I think Washington's going to win this game. I don't believe in the Giants. They are, I think I said at the beginning, the Giants look bad. The QB looked bad. Jones has not looked good all preseason, did not look good week 1. The O-line isn't good. And that Washington up front is going to eat. I mean, look at 99 there, Chase. I think he's going to have a sack or two easily. And I mean, that line is just going to get through them. And if Barkley's hurt now and he gets hit by these guys, I'm worried because I have Barkley in a few leagues and it scares me what these guys are going to do. But I also think it's going to be low scoring because I don't think Heinicke is a guy that's going to keep, put points on the board for these guys. So I think it'll be a lower scoring affair, maybe a 17-7, something like that. But I do have Washington winning. I also think Washington will cover. Some of the starts that I have here for Washington side, I'm starting Washington DST. Antonio Gibson, I'll start as long as he's playing. Logan Thomas, I like as the tight end. I think he's going to be the number 1 option for Heinicke. I'd start Scary Terry if you have him, as most people use them as a high pick, possibly wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So it's hard to replace that. So I definitely start him, but I want to see a little bit more maybe this week to see what they actually do. Is he still the wide receiver 1 or is he now a wide receiver 2 range? And then on the Giants side, I'm sitting Daniel Jones. I'm sitting Kenny Golladay again. Barkley, you have to start because you probably drafted him as your number 1 running back. He's the same situation there as Scary Terry. So if he plays, you're going to start him, but start him with a little bit of caution because you probably won't get points that you're looking for. I mean, if he gets to 10, 11 points, that's a bonus right now. So we're hoping he could get there, but we'll have to check in on that knee. But I can honestly see the leader of this being, again, a guy that no one's paying attention to, like a Sterling Shepard or a Darius Slayton being the guy coming out of there. Nick, do you have anyone different on your list from the ones I mentioned there?
No, not really. I think it's going to be Antonio Gibson, honestly. As we saw last week, that the Giants gave up a total all-purpose of 145 yards to both Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. I think Antonio Gibson's going to have a huge role, and he's going to basically run that clock and chew up that Giants defense. So I think it's going to be him. That's the star of the show, especially with the reports coming out that they want to use him even more and get him even more involved in the game. And with him being injury-free, it looks like, because he had a full practice today. So I'm liking
Yeah,
him.
with Heineke, he's going to be the guy they lean on. So Antonio Gibson could be his stock could rise. Definitely look out for that. So, but again, the Giants' defensive line are not bad, so they might keep they might keep this game a little bit low scoring. So I think the hard part for Antonio Gibson is going to be the touchdowns. I just don't know how many touchdowns he's going to get now with the offense the way it is. So
yeah, I mean Heineke didn't do like terrible. I mean, he did all right. So if he can, take some of that pressure off,
but
where they have
he's
to
more
focus.
of a game manager, right? He's not that
exactly.
guy that's going to get you the 400 yards and
No,
three touchdowns, right?
no.
So if you're not getting that and your defense is stifling, which the Washington defense is, you're relying on your defense keeping the low scoring game so that you can score your 12 to 17 points and win, 17-7, 17-6, something like that, right? So
exactly.
We'll see. But I got Washington. I think they're going to win. Do you got Washington as well? Is that
I got Washington this week as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see Washington. I mean, I will be watching the game. Obviously, I don't want to root for any of them, but for my picks and my spread, I will root for Washington, and we'll see how they go. But yeah,
I'm still hoping it's a double loss.
Yes, it'd be the first one. A tie, I guess, right? But even a tie gets them points. We don't want that. So. But anyways, guys, that's our show for this week. We'd like to thank you guys again for coming. Please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so we can so you get notifications when our shows are coming up later on. We are going to be back on Sunday with our next Sunday live and the pre-snap, and we'll be giving you guys your start sits. We'll be going through any injuries that come up throughout the week. We'll be going through some of the games, some highlights, some guys that we like, some that we don't like, just like we did before. We'll open up a chat so you guys can send questions in on Saturday on the U Stadium app, and we'll definitely put those questions up on the screen, and then we'll have the live going, so you guys will be able to ask us Sunday morning just before game starts. So last week we did really well. We had a good chunk of questions, but we have time for a lot more. So definitely get on the stream and come over and ask us what you want. We're here to help you guys win a championship. So that's what we're looking to do. But anyways, thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.